Hey everyone, this is Mike at TKO Air Guns. I thought today we would show you how to put in one of our 1911 triggers into the Crosman 2240. These are for sale on our website, or if you purchase a moderator from us, we'll include one for free if you mention it. Anyway, let's get started. Crosman 2240. This is a very new gun. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take the grip frame off of the air tube assembly. You can use a regular slotted screwdriver to loosen those. However, we find that a number 2 square bit works better. It won't scar up your gun. So real quick, that square fits right in there. We're going to loosen that. Now there is a small ball bearing and spring that is the detent for the safety. So we have to be careful about that falling out and getting lost. That's one of the most common parts that get lost on the disassembly of a 2240. We'll come back in the back and we'll take that one off also. Alrighty, and the spring and ball bearing are sitting right on top of the action right here. And what I do is before I go too far, I'm going to take a little bit of grease and I'm going to squirt it right into that gap. And that kind of keeps things from flying all over the place. It may still come out, but it isn't going to roll around. Just a little spot of grease there. Now I'm going to use, you can use a slotted screwdriver that you need to for the grip panel on the right-hand side. Just take that off real quick. Set that grip panel aside and that screw aside. There are 3 slotted screws. It is much easier if you use a powered screwdriver like I'm going to use, but you don't need to. You can use a small slotted screwdriver. But I'm going to take these out real quick. There is quite a powerful spring here. That is the sear spring. You can notice the sear is moving on the trigger movement. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to reach in, grab that spring, pull up, and pull it off the perch. This is the spring perch, and that little boss. Lay that spring aside also. And I'm going to use this screwdriver to remove these screws. A lot quicker to do it. It's a very fine slot. Oops. A very fine slot. And now let me see if I can get that. I'm going to loosen it first. Probably would have been a good idea to loosen it first and then use the power tool on it. If I can get that slot in there. It is a very fine slot on these screws. And depending on how tight they are, they may be a little difficult to get out, to loosen. Alrighty. There are a couple of tricks when you reassemble this, so you need to kind of pay attention. So you have 2 pins, a trigger pivot pin, and you have a sear pivot. You can leave the sear pivot in. The trigger is locked by the safety. So we need to take the safety off in effect, and then you're going to reach in and pull that trigger out. The safety pin will fall out. We're going to take this spring washer off of this pin because the 1911 trigger is a little thicker than the factory trigger. Now there may be some fitting required if you're going to do a complete trigger job with the 1911, but for our demonstration purposes today, I won't do that. We're going to put the safety button back in, and you'll notice the spring and the ball bearing are still in there. And with a little bit of grease, they just won't move around. We're going to lay the safety button back in with the red mark to the left of the frame. There's a little flat on that safety button. We're going to put that flat facing downward. So there's a flat this way, not on top. The pin's in. We're going to lay the trigger in, and it'll catch the safety button on that flat. Now it's pretty easy now to just reinstall your side plate. Make sure your pins are in, your sears in the correct position. We'll drop this down on top of it, and it should all line up once we get things. Oh, I'm sorry, now I gotta back up here. This little tab on the 3-screw, 1, 2, 3 screw side covers, this little tab has to come off. You can cut it off, you can break it off. I'm just gonna cut it off. This little tab won't affect the operation of the trigger. Even if you decide to put this factory trigger back in, it won't affect it, but it does need to come off. So I'm gonna try to not cut myself and chop this little tab off. You can score it and then break it, or you can do what I'm gonna do. I'll be right back. I usually use a pair of side cutters for this, but I'm just going to snip that tab off with a pair of scissors. And you got to work at it a little bit, but it'll trim right off. Now the assembly will go back together real easily. Lays right in there. We'll drop our screws in. Our side plate screws. And we'll again using my little electric Crosman screwdriver just to get it almost snug, and then I'll finish it by hand. This thing goes a little too quick for this application, I think. I'll just use it like a screwdriver, I guess. You don't need to crank down on that at all. These screws bite that pot metal that the frame is made out of really well, so you don't need to wear your screwdriver out tightening it up, or the slots in the screws. And this one is a little crossed up here, so I'm going to reset that one. There we go. You want to check the action of the trigger. If you pull the sear down, or pull the sear up, drop your spring in, pop it up onto that perch, and you can check the trigger action. I also usually will trim about 1.5 coils off of the sear spring to lighten the trigger pull up. Safety's on. Trigger doesn't move, safety's off, trigger moves. We'll put the grip frame back on. Pay attention that the safety spring and ball detent didn't move out of position. And we're going to use a regular slotted screwdriver on this. Maybe my electric screwdriver wasn't such a great idea for this project. And I'm gonna see if I can get that in and tighten that up too. Get it flush. Trigger's in, safety's on, trigger doesn't pull, safety's off, trigger pulls. It makes a real nice wide trigger blade compared to the factory. The factory one is rounded too, so it surrounds your finger, whereas the flat blade allows the pad of the finger to pull the trigger, so the perception is the trigger pull is lighter. You can slide your finger down to reduce the pull or keep it in the middle. After that, it's just a matter of making sure that detent spring is into place. Line the breech up. Now you may have to pull the trigger to get it to line up. So I pulled the trigger. That allows you to slide the frame back and forth. Otherwise, the sear's in the way and it won't allow you to do that. The longer screw goes in the front. And we'll put that number 2. Square bit to tighten that up. Just go a little bit snug. We'll put the rear screw in, and here's a trick you might have to push the end cap in a little bit in order to get this screw to line up with the threads. Snug that up, come back, snug the front up again. I do it a couple times just to make sure that everything is snugged up. You don't want to strip anything. And that's pretty much it for the install of the 1911 trigger. This gun doesn't have any gas in it. And the trigger pull is definitely improved. It still has some creep in it, but that's curable if you read the instructions that come with it. It shows you, if you want to try it, to drill and tap a hole here and put a 632 set screw that we include in the package. And then you can adjust the sear engagement so your trigger pull won't have as much creep. This one's really not too bad. It's probably about a 3-pound pull now. So that is pretty much it on putting the 1911 trigger in. If you do have any problems, feel free to give us a call and we can help walk you through the installation. One thing I didn't mention that I should have is right on the top of that sear and the face of the sear, it's not a bad idea to just put maybe just a small swipe of moly grease on that sear. That'll smooth up the trigger. Currently, when I pull this trigger, I can feel it go bang, and that'll definitely smooth that up, even though it'll be a longer trigger pull, unless you add the set screw for the sear engagement. But it's, I don't know, it looks good. I think it definitely does help the angle of your finger. The blade is more vertical instead of round. So you're not pulling where the trigger wants you to pull. It allows you to put your finger where you want, high or low or right in the middle. And there's more of a straight pull with your finger instead of your finger riding up on the factory trigger. Anyway, that's how you put the 1911 trigger in. Any questions, feel free to give us a call. Check us out on our website at TKO22.com. and our new website, airgunmods.com, where we're starting to introduce some 3D printed moderators. And thanks for watching our video, and take care of yourself. Bye-bye.